Let's discuss grandparent names in the South. I'm Landon. I'm from the South, and I talk way too much. Break out your nabs, get whatever kind of Coke you want, because today we've got to discuss grandparent names in the South. So in the South, when you become a grandparent or you find out you're about to be a grandparent, you've got to get to getting, because we've got a lot to do before that baby comes. And most importantly, we've got to decide our grandparent name. Now, grandparent names come with stipulations. You can claim a grandparent name, but if that baby doesn't agree with it or says it differently, your grandparent name is changed. You can claim a grandparent name all you want, but that grandbaby is the one who decides. They are the level boss of grandparent naming. They may change it entirely, they may tweak it a little bit. Either way, you need to be prepared for that possibility. If you prompt them good from the beginning, you should get what you want. Second condition is your in-laws. You've got to get your in-laws in on this. This is a big family meeting, because here's the thing. If they're already grandparents, they already have their grandparent name, and you have to cede to them. What's done is done, and you can't change a grandparent name after it's stuck with a grandkid. Fortunately, there are plenty of variations for you out there. There is so much to choose from. We've got grams, grannies, nannies, nana, neenies, gammies, grannies, and grandma. Now, we all know Grandma. She's got the best lap, and she makes delicious biscuits. Grandma is a straightforward name. Sometimes you need to identify Grandma a little bit more with a last name added to Grandma, or even her first name, or even an initial of one of those two things, and we'll get more into initials later on. But Grandma so-and-so is a solid grandma name. You know she's got that good strawberry candy, and Werther's original. Now, Grandma and Grandma are the same, they're just in different regions. Past grandma, we move to grandmother. Now, grandmother is a little bit fancier than grandma. Grandmother is also most likely coastal. You can either find them physically on the coast or exuding coastal grandmother vibes. Elite. Grandma is also a fancier version of grandma, but it's not as fancy as grandmother. Grandma is a solid A+ grandmother name. I even have a grandma. So let's stay fancy and head into even fancier territory with GiGi. Gigi's bag is sitting on her elbow like this when she walks around, and it is the latest Louis Vuitton. Now, Grammy has the same amount of money as GiGi, but she's a little less flashy about it, a little more old money vibes, except for when it comes to the Coldwater Creek catalog. Grammy will order from the Coldwater Creek catalog. And Mimi's fancy like GiGi and Grammy, but Mimi is less of a brand name person, more of a specific kinds of daylilies type of a lady, if that means anything to any of you. Mimi has strong opinions on the variations of daylilies found in her yard, and those daylilies are rare. Now, my mother is a grandma. That's her grandparent name. Grandma's a little twist on grandma, a little modern spin. But to show you how important grandmother names are, I threatened my mother that if she didn't act right, she was going to end up named a Meemaw, and Meemaws are wonderful. Meemaw can do it all, but my mother is not a Meemaw. So put that in your pocket and do with it what you want. Specific grandmother names can be used as threats if you are the one producing the grandchild. So let's move into Meemaw. Meemaw and Mamaw, they're very similar. They're both very country, and they both can skin a deer. But your Meemaw and your Mamaw will set you right straight if you get out of line. You could end up on punishment if you're not careful around your Meemaw and your Mamaw. And Mamaw would have took to the bed if she hadn't been raised right, because your Paw is driving her nuts. So with Paul, let's get started on the grandpa names. Grandpa, again, straightforward. But you gotta understand that these men are that name to the whole community once they've received their grandparent name. So if you're just grandpa, you've got to add a signifier behind it. What kind of grandpa are you? Are you a grandpa with a full last name? Are you a grandpa with your first name? Or are you a grandpa with an initial, one or both of those names? Or are you a grandpa whose actual name is a letter or combination of two letters? So is that initial your actual name? That can be a thing down here. You can be a letter as your name. You don't even have to be a grandparent for this one. You can be an ML, a GH, a WC, an RJ, and none of those have to have names to go underneath them. They can, but on your birth certificate, it can literally say one letter, two letters. You are that. You are Grandpa D, and we're all so glad. So when it comes to grandpa names, you are very welcome to be just one letter, especially if that one letter is your government name on your birth certificate. Now, I love hearing all y'all's grandpa names. They are so cute. But I have the very best grandpa name. I even saw somebody say they had a fun dad. Brilliant. But my great-grandfather's name was literally Darling. So I had a Grandpa Darling. And he was, in fact, darling. So, either signify what kind of grandpa you are to the community, or choose a specific name. You can choose a specific name that has nothing to do with the traditional grandparent name, and you won't have to share it with anybody. For instance, you can be a Tump, a Toby, a Tubby, a Dump, a Dumpy, a Happy, a Stumpy. Any word that describes you physically at any point in your life or describes an action you took at any point in your life can be your grandparent name. This can also be your name. In general, you don't have to be a grandparent for this one, but if you're a grandparent, it's a great time to transition to a given name like Toby. And if you're somebody's Toby, you're Toby to all of us, so settle in. Now, if you don't want a specific name, one thing you can do is be a daddy so-and-so or a father so-and-so. Now, father so-and-so sounds pretty formal to me, but I bet if you've got a father granddaddy, he's very precious. Now, while we're in that formal area, let's go ahead and get it over with grandfather. Grandfather is coastal. I don't make the rules. Coastal grandfather goes with coastal grandmother. A version of grandfather is granddad. It's less formal. He's more inland. But grandfather and granddad both work at the bank. Now, papaw and pawpaws. Papaw and pawpaws are busy. You won't find papaw and pawpaw lying about in the Lazy Boy. Papaw and pawpaw are getting to getting. They got to getting decades ago, and they have not stopped yet. Papaw is a little bit more business oriented, and pawpaw is a little bit more outside oriented, but both of them are actively doing something at this very moment. Now, granddaddy is the country version of granddad. He's not necessarily in overalls without a shirt, but he is rural. But granddaddy is peak rural. If your granddaddy is pronounced granddaddy, you might be Appalachian, but even if you're not, you still have a harder time saying rural than I do. Pops, Pop, and Papa. You gotta watch a Pops, Pop, and Papa. If you're not careful, you'll end up going home from Pop's house with a few chickens. Now, you wanted chickens. You've been wanting chickens. You just weren't gonna fully commit. Pop committed. Now it's time for you to get a chicken coop and a chicken tractor built so these biddies can get in the yard. Pops decided, that's that. You're a chicken farmer now. Now, I only know one Pappy, and he was very, very spicy. But Pappy and Peepaw are who you want to call if your truck's broke down on the side of the road. They both can fix it. You'll have to hear from them a little bit, if you know what I mean. But they can fix it. One thing about Pappy and Peepaw, they both will eat potted meat. Now, if you don't know what potted meat is, I'm going to pause for a second while you Google that. Got it? Got it. Now, Pa and Paw are both probably hunting. You may not be able to understand Paw as much as you can Pa, and certainly not as much as you can understand grandfather or father so-and-so. Pa is a little more Little House on the Prairie than Paw. So what you need to know is, if you got a new grandbaby about to show up in your life, you've got a few things to get ready. We've got to get your name nailed down, and then we got to get that baby named well ahead of time. Once we have both names, it is time. It's time. It's time to monogram. Don't go piddling on deciding on your grandparent names. This is a decision that will impact generations. And aren't you so proud? So, if you like to discuss the South, maybe you're Southern and it's a bit nostalgic. Or maybe you're not from here, and this is all a fascinating expository into a whole nother culture. Either way, hit the subscribe button and like this video. There's so much more to come. See you next time, Lord willing and the creek don't rise.